information that you can include in this description and comparison of the dialects are can be the historical background of the dialects. For example, there says, was the country a colony of Britain's, like for instance in the case of Australia, or how long has it been independent in case you choose an American dialect. You can talk about those type of elements that that have an historical background. It has any other language. I mean, do the people from this place pronounce another language before English, like Spanish, Italian, etc.? Because there are some places in which they have been conquered by more than one country, so they may have different influences because of that. Because when colonization happens, the coloners want to impose the rules, and one of them are the language. So usually when that happens, people from certain places are not allowed to speak the language they used to, and they have to start speaking in the language the coloners speak. So that's an example of that. Then it says languages. How many languages are spoken in that country? For instance, I saw that many of you choose the Chinese English dialect. And for instance, in China, depending on where you are, you have many local dialects and also languages, because for instance, Mandarin, it's different from what you would call Shanghainese, or there are so many that I cannot pronounce because I know how to write them, but there are so many different dialects. Or the same happens, for instance, in India. In India, they speak more than one language, official language. So that is also interesting because it can affect the dialect. And then it says characteristics of the dialect, and the characteristics can be talked in terms of pronunciation. How do they pronounce the different phonemes? Vocabulary, are there any words that are particular from that dialect? Or grammar, is there any change in tense in this specific dialect? And you can compare, for instance, the grammar of one dialect and the grammar from another one, like I did with the General American and RP. Even though RP it's technically an accent, but you can compare them because the grammar in the case of RP was the same grammar people from I don't know, that uses a Burmese dialect or a Geordie dialect will use. So you can compare the two you can compare the differences in grammar between the two dialects you picked. And a sample analysis in which you have examples of different, I don't know, sentences or examples in pronunciation to give examples of what you're saying in terms of pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. There's some features you may include. They may be others that you think are relevant, and you can mention them. And another important feature is that your oral report has to last up to 10 minutes. So it is important for you to be able of this and to organize your presentation in a way in which you don't go over those 10 minutes. So you need to be very careful of that, because it's very easy to run out of time when you're presenting. Another aspect to mention is that you have to log in at least 10 minutes before your presentation. So in case there's some people that, I don't know, may not join are not going to, they miss their presentation or something, you need to
Miss, I have a question.
Can you
What
give
is...
me
Oh,
give me
sorry.
2 minutes? It's okay.
Sorry, Miss.
Remember to, because either, as I was mentioning, sometimes there may be some minutes in which you are just waiting for a student, and if it doesn't show up, you are going to move on to the next one, so to the next couple. So it is very important for you to be at least 10 minutes before, in case anything happens, and anything can happen. Or if you have any issues or anything, it is important to be at least 10 minutes before. And then it says, make sure you have tested your presentation before, and that each other presenter has a copy of the presentation. This it's mainly because if you have an issue like I've had in the past, and if I am, for instance, not able to present, at least my partner can show the presentation, or can project or share their screen, his or her screen, and share the presentation. So when it says test, you have tested your presentation, you can do that on Teams. You can call each other and you can share your screens. And also, if you rehearsal, which I highly recommend you before the presentation, you can rehearse while sharing the screen, so you know the presentation works and you know that everything's on the screen and you have not missed any details. So with that being said, now Gaspar, what was your question?
What is the duration of the audios in the presentation?
That it's going to be up to you. That it's going to be up to whether you decide to give very long examples. For instance, if you are giving an example that whether if you're sharing a recording or just a sentence, the length of it, it's going to depend to you, because I can show you, for instance, a very long example, but the thing is that if I do that, I may run out of time. So it all depends on whether it depends on what you are going to share. If you're going to share an example of pronunciation and grammar and I don't know, some on vocabulary, maybe your example is going to be long, but be careful about those 10 minutes you have, because if you run out of time, it's going to be very unfortunate.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's all up to you.
So, my audios has not limit, right?
As long as you are able to say everything you want to say in those 10 minutes, it's okay. I wouldn't recommend you to use a very long audio, like of more than 1 minute, though. In the case, for instance, just an example, or if you have a sentence, like a very big paragraph, unless you are going to explain like in detail, or it's basically your whole presentation about that, or the dialect about that paragraph. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but in terms of length, I wouldn't recommend you to use something that will take you more than, for instance, 2 or 3 minutes to only show. Maybe it's okay if you take those minutes to explain your example, but you need to be very careful, because you are two people. I mean, you're going to work as a couple, and both of you need to speak equally. It will be the ideal. So just be aware of that and be careful.
Okay, miss. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Because now we're going to move on to the rubric, and this is the rubric it's going to be used to assess your performance. And in order to get the full score, you need to accomplish these categories that are vowels, consonants, word stress, content mastery, extension, connected speech, and intonation patterns. And some of them are more relevant than other, and that it's why you have that. For instance, these categories have the double of the points of the score. In this case, they are going to give you the double of. For instance, in the first one, instead of giving you 4 points, are going to give you 8 points if you accomplish this category. So the first one says vowels, and it says pronounces vowels correctly all the time. and those are going to be 4 points. That at the end are going to be 8. And then if you pronounce the correct vowels, most of the times are going to be 3 points, given 3 points. And then if you make inconsistent vowel errors too, and then if you pronounce several vowels incorrectly, you are going to have only 1 point. Then we have consonants, that it's the same with vowels. If you pronounce them correctly all the time, you're going to have the full score in the category of consonants. Then you have word stress, that it says places stress on the right syllable, or multisyllabic words all the time. And then you have content mastery, and it says demonstrates full mastery of the contents, analyze examples using technical jargon and provides enough detail and or examples to support his or her answer. Extension. The extension of the student's report excels are the amount of output necessary to assess his or her pronunciation, and she or he does not need prompts to be assessed. Then it says connected speech, applies features of connected speech effectively all the time. And finally, we have intonation patterns, and it says apply tonality, tonicity, and tone effectively all the time. So this is the rubric. If you have any questions regarding the instructions or the rubric, you may ask the questions now, because this is your time. Do you have any questions regarding these criteria in which you're going to be assessed? Or do you have any questions regarding the instructions for the task? All of this information is available on the LMS, by the way. So questions? Or is it all clear? Is there any question? No? Bastián, Camila, de Diegos, Gaspar, Ignacio, Mariano, Marieta, Nicolás, Omar, Pío, Sebastián.
Miss,
Yes.
in which part we can register for the presentation? Because in the LMS we have the link, but I can see nothing on the link.
Yeah, that's why I am loading this. It was already there when I started the second part of the session, but you know how my internet is, and what you may see, it's something like this, right? And as you can see, there's nothing there, but once Google finally loads, ends up charging, here you can see that on the top it says registration here. So you have 2 tabs. When you open this document, you're going to be on the first tab, which is right here, and it looks like this, right? So you have to click on here where it says click on the other tab. The other tab is this one. Can you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes, Miss.
Yes. So you have to click here where it says registration here, and once you do, this is going to appear. So
Okay.
for instance, we have slots available on Wednesday, the 23, and on Thursday. On the LMS, and also here on the side, you have all the the options of dialects that you may choose for your presentation. So we have some people here with us. We have an elephant, zebra, I will say. So any other questions?
I didn't hear so well, but you said that we can put some examples in the presentation, some audio examples of the accents.
You must provide examples because of the rubric where it says content mastery demonstrates full mastery of the contents, analyzes samples. That means you have to have examples, and maybe if you want to use only written examples and pronounce them by yourself, it's okay. And if you want to use recordings or audios, it's also good. So
So
depending, yeah.
It can be videos and audios.
Yes, whatever you want to use, it's okay. I don't know if Mr. Bruno has a preference in terms of this, but I will say that you don't need to put like full 10-minute video because you're going to run out of time. But if you have short videos and you can record some examples from some videos, it's also a good idea of people speaking or just the recordings. So, any other question?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I have a question.
What's your question?
In the rubric it says that all the vowels, consonant, and connected speech matters because you have to have a perfect score. You have to do it well every time, every single word. That means that every single word that we say is important, and that for each of all of the students of all these sections. And my question is, are you will be able to do that to care of each word of each student of each section to
Well, I am going to tell you this as a student because I also did this subject just like you. And I took this subject just like you. And when you are setting, when you are setting a test, or when you are having this speaking interview, because we call them interviews, you are only two. You only are two at the time when we are assessing. And for instance, I am going to have your own rubric. This is going to be used only for you. So when you're speaking, you're we as teachers, we as teachers, because I've done this when I was on my other practicums, and teacher Bruno, Professor Bruno, it does the same as well. While you're speaking, we are writing everything that not every single word you say, but if we hear a phoneme that maybe was not supposed to be placed there, or if you pronounce, I don't know, a short E instead of a long E, we can differentiate that. Or if you pronounce instead of the trap vowel a schwa, we can identify that. And depending on the context, it is going to depend if the change on vowels was good or was well placed or not. And we can, it's not, I think that once you do face-to-face classes and speakings, you're going to notice this, but it's very easy to pick up some no mistakes, some errors in terms of pronunciation. You can, if you, for instance, say a word wrong, if I am pronouncing something and instead of saying pronunciation, I say pronunciation, and I can say, oh, I'm sorry, and I can correct myself instantly. The first mistake I made was it is not going to be count. But don't worry about all the identifying every single mistake, because you're only two at the time, and only one of you is going to be speaking at the time of the interview. So it's not difficult to do so. Was that, were you able to understand my answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Miss, so we don't
Yes.
have to prepare a PowerPoint presentation?
Mr. Bruno, I don't know what you think. I think they should have one. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's optional, but a PowerPoint presentation or any visual material that you can show is going to boost your presentation. It's going to make it visually more attractive. It's going to help you to read, and also it's going to engage. In this case, the audience that are going to be the teachers or any other students that are going to be watching your presentation. In general, it's going to be just the two of you and teachers evaluating. But I think it's optional, but because you can use a Prezi presentation or any other resource that can help you to show the evidence. Basically, whenever you are dealing with vocabulary, for instance, just like Ms. Javiera Cabeza was dealing with when she showed you examples of New York accent, right? It's always good to see the examples. So I
Okay.
guess even, yeah, right.
Thank you, teacher.
Sure, anytime.
And I think that having a presentation or a prezi, it's also going to be helpful for you in case you don't know from memory or you don't remember from memory every single example or an example, for example, for instance, or something. It can help you to remember things. So it's up to you, but I will highly recommend you to use one. Any other questions? If there are no more questions, I think we should do the group. I mean, we should start working in pairs. Professor Bruno?
Yes, I think so. I guess there's a way in which we can divide the, unless you want to have a way to divide the section, but I was looking for the section in which you can create rooms here.
Yeah, I was told that you can do breakup groups now here on Teams.
Yeah, I heard so. Same thing, but then the option does not appear to me here. And while I'm speaking, I'm taking a look at. Sorry, I think I messed up with the hand. So yeah, I don't see the option now that I did before. So what we could do is we could migrate to Zoom, and then I could create breakout rooms because it doesn't appear here. And it's weird because it was yesterday. Small square. I think it was a square within another square. So no idea. It's okay if I send a Zoom invitation so everyone can join the invitation. See if I can open the.
I think this is up to them, but if we don't have answers, we don't know what should we do. What do you think? The ones who are here. from this
For
session.
me, I think it's the best to go with Zoom.
Probably. So Omar, Gaspar are going to work together. Sebastián Camaño and Mariano. Camila González and Paloma. Paloma was not here, I think, today. Héctor y Marieta. Bastián y Diego. Camila, Bastián, Fernanda. Adeli and Sapka, but they are not here today. So for the other ones who are not registered yet, I highly recommend you to do so because there are many time slots available.
Okay, in the meantime, because I was trying to check again the option of creating rooms here in Teams, but the icon is not showing. So I have no idea how to fix this now because yesterday it was an option there. So in the meantime, I think it's very important to insist on what you mentioned, that it's only 10 minutes and 10 minutes go fly by. I mean, you don't even notice, and then it's complex to try to say everything in the last minute. So it's important to keep a balance between the interaction that each of the students are going to make. First, because you have to describe the two dialects, but you need to pick the relevant features of those languages. Sometimes it's going to be pronunciation. Sometimes it's going to be more aspects about vocabulary, or sometimes you're going to find that the historical elements of how the language, how the English was enforced in this country, maybe you think that's also relevant. Okay, but you need to keep a balance between all the information that you are giving, that each one of the participants can have the same share. Let's ask ideally 50 and 50%, and that you have time to make a bit of a comparison between the two dialects, even if it's not really a full report. The idea is that there is at least one or two main comparisons. Okay, so it requires not only know the information, but also it requires for you to be able to divide, right, the time between the two participants. Because in general, if you look at the rubric, the way you are assessed has to do with how you pronounce vowels and consonants, the way you use word stress, if features of connected speech are present in your speech, and there's an element of content knowledge, but it's not really heavy. It's not big enough in terms of importance in the rubric. And why is that? Because in a digital evaluation, even though some students may turn off the camera, it's quite impossible to be honest, right? It's quite impossible to know if a student doesn't have his or her camera off, if the student is reading. Luckily or unfortunately for the phonetics class, we're dealing with pronunciation. So if you read with the camera off, or if you have the camera on and you are actually showing, right, something that you know, either way, we're going to be assessing pronunciation. So I don't know if this information clears up a little bit of your doubts or not. Unfortunately, Zoom is not working either for me. That's something
That
that I need to
happens
take.
sometimes.
Yeah, I need to take a look at that. So as I was speaking with, I was checking Zoom and Teams, and it doesn't seem to be working. So my suggestion would be, Ms. Javiera Cabeza, for our students to find some time to work together because this activity is not only about learning about some dialects, is well, I guess one, understanding that it's not all about RP and general American anymore. It's about so many different dialectal varieties that we need to understand that English is not only one, but several different varieties of it. The second is that you're dealing with technology with this report, as we were during the whole semester and the previous year. But the idea is using technology to work collaboratively. So you're working with someone else to achieve a goal. And that's important because there's going to be some elements that you need to discuss, and you need to agree, you need to negotiate. So the idea of having to negotiate with someone implies that you're developing other skills as well. Okay, so this is yes, it's a comparative dialect comparative analysis, but it's got many other elements in it that make it more enriching activity. Okay, it's also time management, because you have to know and learn how to deal with time management, because it's going to be a very important skill that you need to manage as a teacher and for the rest of the years that you're going to spend in this teaching career. So Ms. Javiera Cabeza, I think we're not having more time for them to work here in either Zoom or Teams. I think Bastian has a question.
Yes, Mr. Bruno, I have a very important question. In Portal del Estudiante, when I see Fonética Inglesa 2 is a grade who is for 20% that says evaluación de microclases evaluadas con rúbrica unidad 3. That grade will be canceled, or when we will do that?
Sorry, come again with the label that is in this website.
Evaluación de microclases evaluadas con rúbrica unidad 3.
Yes, this is not going to be a micro teaching class or microclasse. This is going to be an oral report. That was a variation because we were required to modify or to change some of the evaluations according to this the context that we are having with staying at homes and having online classes. So the micro teaching sessions were changed for oral presentations as they requested from all the teachers in all the courses to make some changes that could help or somehow not have a negative impact on the course. And considering the number of students that get logged in, the participants in the classrooms, considering the level of English, consider some aspects that have to do with knowledge about the English language, I considered that micro teaching sessions were not an appropriate evaluation that could be applied in this level, but an oral report in which you are showing evidence that you did a research process, right? That you investigated in, for example, in a web or in any material on the web, that that you could produce information orally, right, about the topic, but not teaching your peers, because teaching your peers make you more responsible about the content, about teaching, and so that was a modification or a change of the original evaluation. So no market teachings, but oral reports. And I sent the change to the what's the name of this docencia, but I think they did not make the change in the website. I hope that can answer the question, Bastian.
Yes, totally, Mr. Bruno. Thank you.
Sure. So, Ms. Javiera, I don't have any further information. I mean, I'm open to answer questions about the oral report, but it's very important for them to register as soon as possible the options that that you're showing, right, in the in this Excel spreadsheet. There are some options on the right, but still, if you find other varieties of English, you're most welcome to choose them, right? The ones on the right are options. They're not mandatory. If you think that there's another variety of Australian English or another variety of Irish English, go ahead and choose them, right? For example, for me, if you ask me, one very interesting variety is African American vernacular. African American vernacular, because in general, the black community is still considered a minority in some areas of the United States. They have a very different accent, and very distinctive accent that you can find in particularly the, for example, the south of United States. Let's say Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. But then if you move up to a northern state, you can still find a black man or a black woman using a type of African American vernacular which is completely different from the one used in the South, because of the influence of the community they are living in, or because people travel a lot, and when you travel a lot, you acquire other accents. So feel free to choose dialects that are not in this list. There are many dialects that have no idea the way they sound. For example, from I don't know, from the Caribbean. Sometimes some of them are, for example, from Guyana, the type of English. I have no idea the way it sounds. I can only bet it sounds quite similar to Bahamas, but I'm just betting. I'm not sure. I have heard Jamaican English, and it's so interesting that sometimes verbs are not conjugated. Sometimes, for example, instead of saying she is staying, they use just the verb be. So she be staying. She be staying at the hotel. He be jogging on the beach. So those particularities that dialects have, if you are very careful, they are going to help you understanding other varieties. And it would be really wonderful to, I don't know what you think, Ms. Javiera, to have a compilation of this in video, so they can learn from other presentations, so they can learn about English in New Orleans, Singaporean English, Nigerian English, etc., etc. I mean, it's an evaluation, but also it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, and because many of these are not, because of what we already said, we usually only hear General American and RP varieties of English when we are studying the language. So it's very interesting to know how people from other parts of the world speak the same language, because it is English, but it's their own variety and it's completely different. It is the same language, yet it can be very different. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if the participants have any further questions.
I don't see any hands or open mics, so I don't think so. No, we don't have more questions. Because if you don't have any other questions, I think that's all for this lesson. Yeah, it's time to leave. So I think that's all for this session. Well, if you have any questions, you can send regarding the presentations. You can send an email asking them, and just remember to be 10 minutes before, and remember that your presentation it's only 10 minutes, so you need to be very careful with your time, and you have to have time management, because otherwise it's going to be very complicated for you. And I think that's all. I am not going to see you next week, so have a good assessment week. Good luck and goodbye.
Thank you, Miss. Have a nice week.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice week, all of
See you on
you.
Thursday.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye bye, teacher.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Your next
Thank you,
class is
Ms. Javiera.
Thursday. Goodbye, Mr. Urdun.